All right. Hey guys, welcome. So I'm going to wait a little bit for more people to join us. So if you're watching this on the replay, then I'm just going to go over where we were last time. So this is a continuation of a series that we're doing for this week. And it is asking the question, if God told you to help the one who hurt you, to bless the one who betrayed you, would you or could you do it? And so I know that's a loaded question. And so we are looking at different examples of people in the Bible who have faced this exact dilemma. What do you do when you have the option to exercise mercy or revenge, when you can allow karma to take its toll on people and you are the one exacting the karma? What would you do? So yesterday we talked about Joseph and the situation that he was in with his brothers. We saw a situation where Joseph was betrayed by his family. He was sent off. They did not care what happened to him. They actually thought he died. And he had the opportunity in the end to actually help them. And he did. He came through, he helped them, he saved them from the famine that was ravaging the nation. And so today, we are looking at David and Saul. So for most people, you're familiar with David because of David and Goliath, and we're going to get into that. But there is a whole situation, a lot of contention between David and Saul. So I want to take us back. We're going to start in 1 Samuel, and we're looking at chapter 8 to begin with. And so in this situation, we have the Israelites who are looking for a king. Samuel is getting old in age. They're looking for someone to lead them because the rest of the nation has a king and they want one too. Not a great reason to get a king, but that is what they want to do. So Samuel is then tasked with the responsibility of finding them a king. God signs off, says, yes, they can have a king. We let them know what will happen if they get one, that it will be sort of ruinous for them, but they decide to go at it anyway. So then Samuel ends up coming across Saul. Saul becomes the king because he is attractive, handsome, tall, strong looking, and he looks like what the king should look like. Is that also a great reason to choose a king? Not necessarily, because while he is outwardly a perfect match, inwardly he has a lot of character flaws that end up ruining his potential. And so he's disobedient. He does not listen to God. And it's imperative at this time that if you are king, that you are getting divine leadership. So yes, you are tasked with leading this group of people, but your commands are supposed to come from God. And he does not do that. So he disobeys God's plan, and God then says, I no longer want him to be king. I'm not signing off on this anymore. We need to find a replacement because he's not doing what I was sending him out here to do. So Samuel ends up literally telling Saul that God has taken the kingdom of Israel and given it to one of his neighbors, one that is better than you. He literally says, one that is better than you. So this is the beginning of where we see the jealousy start to take hold in this situation. Yes, we actually talked about Joseph's story yesterday. Yes. So we see that he said that he's going to give it to someone that's better than you. And that is going to become David eventually. But we realize in that statement that sometimes people will feel envious, they will feel jealous of you because they realize that there's something in you and you may not be able to see it, but they see something in you. And a lot of times that's God's favor over your life. And it creates a sense of contention between the two of you. Now, we also know that in this situation, the Lord wasn't looking at the things that other people were looking at. It literally says in scripture that the Lord does not look at the things that people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So that was the major issue with Saul, is that outwardly he looked the part, but inwardly he was not a match. So Samuel goes on, and we decide that Jesse's son, one of them, is going to be the new king. So Samuel is sent off to look at Jesse's sons and figure out which one God wants to be the king. And so Samuel has multiple sons. So he keeps seeing the different sons, and God is like, this is not him. Moving on to the next one. This is also not him. The third one, this is not him. And so then we're like, Samuel's like, is there any other sons? Turns out there is one other son. He is the youngest, and he wasn't even brought there to be looked at. Nobody really saw him as the king type. So he wasn't even brought in to be considered for the king. But he was out with the sheep because he is a shepherd. And so they say, okay, we really want to see David. That's the youngest son. We really want to see him. So we will wait here all night until David can come and we can actually see if this is who God has determined will be the next king. So then they finally see David. Samuel sees David and he gets the message from God that, yes, this is the king. And so once that is decided, we move on. And Saul, at the moment that David is decided as the new king, Saul loses the spirit of the Lord, and then that is replaced with another spirit of evil from the Lord. I think that this is very important because I'm going to read the exact scripture. Now, the spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him. So that is chapter 16, verse 14. That's important because a lot of times we think that when things happen to us, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, when things happen to us, we assume that God had no hand in that was the enemy working against us without permission of God. And I pointed to the situation that we're going to talk about on another day with Job, where God gave permission to the enemy to test Job. This is another situation where Saul was not listening. He was disobedient. He was not doing as he was told. At the time when he decided to act on his own, he already was not acting with God. And so the Lord said, I'm just going to remove my spirit altogether, and I'm going to replace it with another spirit that is going to get you right, essentially. And so at that time, two things happened. God departed, so he was left to his own devices. Fend for yourself, since you know everything. And then two, an evil spirit came to bring him down to his knees. In essence, Saul needed to be humbled. And that happens for so many of us where we need to be humbled. We have to be brought down to our knees to a place where all that we can ask is for God to come and save us. And so that is exactly what happened with Saul. And then in that same regard, Saul is now being tormented, and he's just in a really bad way. He feels miserable, depressed even. He's going through it. And so he's trying to find relief for what he's experiencing. And then one of his servants tells him, well, if you have a musician come and play this specific instrument for you, then I've heard that this will relieve some of the stress and all the pain that you're experiencing. And so, Saul is like, okay, it's worth a try. Do you know anybody that can do this? And the servant says, well, there is someone named Jesse. He has this son. We've already heard of this son before. He has this son, and he plays this instrument. Perhaps he can come and play it for you, and it will help relieve some of the pain that you're feeling. So he brings him in, and it's no other than David. And so we have this theme of divine preparation. We've seen this before. We saw it yesterday. We'll continue to see it. And I talk about this where God prepares a way for you before you even step into the room. He's already created the environment to which you can thrive, and the environment to where his promise can be fulfilled. So we have another example of that. God selects David as the king. Then God departs from Saul. Then Saul is led to rely on David to give him relief. It's like a series of events that David could have written for himself, and Saul certainly wouldn't have written for himself. And at this time, obviously, Saul does not know that David has been chosen to replace him, essentially. All he's doing is trying to find relief for the situation that he's put himself in, and that God ensured would happen to humble him. So at that time, it works. David comes and he finds relief, and then he ends up sort of gaining some favor with Saul at the time. And so we move on, and this is where the story that everybody pretty much knows about. So we move on, and then there is a situation where the Israelites and the Philistines are at war. And Goliath comes forward and he says, well, I will fight somebody. Y'all could pick a person. I'm ready. Anybody can get the work. And y'all pick a person. And if they're able to defeat me, then we will just say that y'all won. And so they're scared. Everybody's scared. Saul is scared. Everybody is scared. Nobody wants to come forward. They have the opportunity, but nobody wants to come forward. Then David just happens to be there and he hears this challenge and he's like, well, we have to do something because otherwise, what are we going to do? And he volunteers. He volunteers to come and fight this big grizzly monster of a man that nobody wants to take on. And so I want to point out that sometimes jealousy stems from you being courageous enough to do the thing that they cannot do or the thing that they are too afraid to do. You do what they can't and you do it with ease. If we remember the story of David and Goliath, David has the opportunity to be outfitted with all of Saul's things, his armor and his weapons and his helmet and all these things. He puts all the things on and he's just like, I don't feel like I could win if I was to wear all of this. So I'd rather just not do it. I'd rather not have the armor. I would rather just go with these 5 stones that I've gotten from the riverside and my sling. Also to point out, when David first volunteers to be the one to go up against this monster, everybody's looking at him like, you're not even a part of the army. Like, he happened to be there. He was still like tending to the fields and things with his father. He just happened to be there and overhear and volunteer, but he's not a fighter. He's not a warrior. He's not anything that would make him qualified to go up against a monster of this size. And Saul even questions him and he's like, do you think you really could do this? And he says, I have protected my sheep, essentially. I've protected them from all sorts of animals and bears and lions and all these things. If I was able to do that with these animals, I'm equating this monster to something that I've seen in the past. No, it's not the exact same thing, but I'm prepared. We see the favor. I'm prepared. I've never seen this particular monster, but I'm prepared. And he had that faith. He had the belief in himself, the confidence to still go up against what nobody else wanted to go up against. And again, that is why some people in our lives are jealous. They're envious. They want us to perish because we do the things that they're afraid to do. And we do them without fear, without hesitation. And we don't allow our insecurities, the noise from the outside, to deter us from doing the thing that we are sent to do. So there are some people that are against you and that want you to fail because you're doing what they're afraid to do. Moving on. He took his 5 stones and his sling and he went and he only needed to use one. He used 1 stone, threw it or slung it at Goliath. It hit him in the forehead and he passed out. He fell out. He was defeated. He was then cut his head off, took it back. So again, he did what no one else was afraid to do, Saul included, who was the king, and he's a shepherd boy. He did what no one else would do, and he did it with ease. The favor of God was upon him. So we think about this, and we have to keep in mind, yes, there was favor over David, which to us is apparent because we know this story, but we have to also realize that, remember, I said God picked David as king a while ago in this story. At the time that God picked Saul, he had not defeated Goliath. He had not became the general. He hadn't really done anything to deserve the title. Again, there will be people who will be jealous of you because in their mind, you do not deserve the things that you have. They deserve what you have. And you not only have the things that you have them and you have them for no reason at all. There is favor over your life that has giving you opportunities, giving you access, giving you resources, and they think those things belong to them. So after David defeats Goliath, he starts to receive a lot of recognition throughout. He continues to fight in wars, and he continues to win. He has been promoted to like a general type thing, and people are starting to really become aware of who he is. And Saul becomes increasingly more and more jealous. And so then he tries to kill him twice. David, he's not to be played with. He eludes death. Then Saul devises a plan, has him marry his daughter, or offers for him to marry his daughter in exchange for David defeating and killing 100 Philistines and bringing their foreskin to him. He not only kills those 100 people, he kills 200 people. And of course, Saul's plan in having him defeat that many people is just thinking like he won't be able to survive that. But he does. He brings back 200 people with him and his men. And so it's interesting though, because again, David has received this favor from God, but when Saul offers him this option to marry his daughter, which would essentially make him his son-in-law, so then David would become Saul's son-in-law. David is questioning like, how am I qualified to be in this family? What would make me qualified to become the son-in-law of a king? How could I be a part of this lineage? I'm poor. I do not come from this prestigious family. And he's even questioning his worthiness or his worth as it pertains to the opportunity to be a part of this family. And again, sometimes people see things in you that you don't see, and it becomes a source of jealousy for them. David is not looking at himself like, oh, my intention is to come and take the kingdom and take your role. But Saul sees it in him at the point where he brings him not 100, but 200 foreskins of the Philistines. He realizes that the favor that I lost with God, he now has that favor, and it only exacerbated the jealousy and the issues that he was feeling towards him. So understand that when your enemies, when people that are betraying you and doing these things to you, when they try to bring you down and then you're still able to rise above and be productive and be successful, and their little ploys don't work, it's only going to make them more angry. It does not make them feel good to see that their plans are not working. And that's exactly what happened in the story. So then, similar to yesterday, when Joseph's brothers were plotting against him, and I told you that God sent a Reuben, in this story, God sends a Jonathan. So Jonathan is Saul's son, and him and his father, they're very close. But Jonathan also takes a liking to David. So understand that in the situation where you feel like everybody's against you, or people are coming at you, or you're being betrayed, or people are not reciprocating your efforts, or they're plotting against you and hoping for your downfall, God will always keep you covered. Amongst your enemies, there will always be an ally. Amongst the destruction and the despair and people talking about you, there will always be a silver lining of sorts that you can point to. You just have to find it. You have to find your Jonathan, find your Reuben. God will always plant covering, even amidst people's ploys and plots to bring you down. So in this story, God sends a Jonathan. And in this, you may be somebody's Jonathan. So be careful for that too. You may have been sent to look after, to be an ally for someone, to bring them out of despair. So David and Jonathan end up having a conversation about Saul, and David tells him like, your dad is or Jonathan tells David that his dad is trying to kill him. He wants him dead. And it's a strange thing, because Jonathan is sort of an unlikely ally, because this is his dad that he's talking about, that my dad wants you dead. And I don't know why, because I don't understand why he would want you dead. All that you've done is protect our people and you've been loyal to us, but he wants you dead. And so he ends up helping and aiding David in escaping and hiding and things of that nature. And then they have a plan to make sure that that's the plan. And so David says, well, go to your dad and just let him know that although I'm supposed to be at this event where he likely would try to kill me at this event if I go, just let him know that you gave me permission to go, I think it's to Bethlehem. And he's like, depending on his response, will tell us if he's really trying to kill me. And so he goes off and he hides. And then Jonathan goes to the event, and when his father asks, where is David? He has not been here the last couple of days of this, he's supposed to be here. Jonathan tells him what the story that they devised for him to tell him. And then his father, well, in the midst of him telling him all of this, his father starts to get sort of upset. And then Jonathan asks Saul, like, why is it that you don't like him? Why are you trying to kill him? And his father throws a spear at him and tries to kill him. And it just brings up the point of when people do not like you, when they have a vendetta and they're angry towards you, the question of why do you not like this person? What is it about them that upsets you? Why are you hoping for the downfall of this person who seemingly has done nothing to you? Will enrage them. When people are, for lack of a better word, possessed or tormented by jealousy, envy, all of those things, sometimes those things are spirits. And we know in this case that the Spirit of the Lord had left him and that it was replaced with an evil spirit. That is happening for some of the people in your lives that are trying to bring you harm and trying to bring you down and set on destroying you and betraying you and all these other things. It is not an earthly matter for some people. For some people that are trying to actively ruin your life, it is a spiritual battle that they are facing. It is spiritual agitation that they experience. And when you ask them, what is wrong? What did I do to you? You try to then rationalize something that cannot be explained. They don't even know why they don't like you. They don't even know why you agitate them so much, because the battle is not earthly. The battle is not in things that you've done. The battle is in things that God has put inside of you. And so you will never be able to understand, and they will never be able to understand why they dislike you so much, why your presence agitates them so much, why it's so upsetting for them to see you doing good things. They will never be able to answer that question for you. And so I say that for anybody that is struggling with that and is trying to rationalize and intellectualize and understand why they're being targeted, what they've done to deserve this treatment, why they can't seem to get along or just exist in a way that is positive with certain people, it's because the God in you disturbs the spirit that is evil in them. And that's not always the case. There are some cases where maybe you have done something to someone and they're upset about that. But there are legitimately cases where there are evil spirits that have caused spiritual agitation inside some people. And your mere presence in front of them is a reminder of the lack of God that exists inside of them. So sometimes people just hate the God in you. Long story short. So moving on, we see them now in the cave. We've already established that Saul is trying to kill David. We do not know why, other than the fact that he's jealous and he's being tormented by a spirit. That's the only reason. That's it. So David ends up seeing Saul in the cave because David and his men are in the cave, in the back of the cave. Saul has come into the cave to relieve himself. So when they see him in the cave, one of his men tells him and reminds him that this is the day that the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give you your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish. So this has already sort of been prophesied that this day would come, that there would be a time where if he wanted to get revenge, that he could. And I just want to, before we get into what he decides to do, and I think y'all know what he's going to decide to do, but before we get into that, I just want to say that you have to really be careful of who you go to when you're feeling like you want karma and you want to be karma today. Because in this situation, David is a good man. He is loyal, he is humble, he is God-fearing, he is a good man. But one of his men is like, if you want to go get him, he's right here. And he uses the word of God to justify him doing that and him exacting revenge, even if that's not necessarily the best thing for him to do. But he says this, and David is like, you know what? You're right. He's right here. Let's go get him. And so he reaches for him and he ends up cutting off a piece of his robe. And then immediately he realizes, this ain't me. This ain't me. I am not him. This is not me. And so he backs off and he says, from evildoers come evil deeds, so my hands will not touch you. So while he has the ability, he's within arm's reach of this man that has tried to kill him multiple times, that has set him up to be killed by others, that has plotted and schemed against him. He has the opportunity to do the same thing in return. And he says, no, I'm not going to do it, because from evildoers come evil deeds. So basically, if I resort to being who he is, I will in turn receive evil unto me. And so David ultimately understands that the best revenge that he can get on him will come from God. God has the ability to get revenge that we could never get. He has the ability to do things that we will never see, that we cannot even imagine, because he knows what will get to us. He knows what needs to happen for us to get the lesson. He can do and put things in motion that we would never be able to do. And so, in that decision to do that, he ends up telling Saul, like, look, here's your robe. I could have killed you back there. I decided not to. And in doing that and making that decision and making it apparent to Saul, it shows Saul himself. He then almost apologizes. And it's just like, I hope that God blesses you. I hope that, your family is prosperous and all these things, because you are a good man. You are better than me, essentially, which is also what God said. I was going to choose someone that was better than you to become king, but it's neither here nor there. He essentially says, you are better than me. I hope that goodness comes to you. I pray that God blesses you. And David's character is publicly revealed. It's obvious now what kind of man he really is. And God's hand is undeniable in all of this. And so I think that this message is just so important, because one other thing that we didn't talk about is a lot of times we want to see, I said this yesterday, I think, we want to see karma happen. We want to see people get what they're owed. And a lot of times we take that responsibility into our hands to make sure that they get what they deserve. And we're sort of frustrated or upset when it feels like they're living their life as normal and we're still dealing with the consequences of their negative actions towards us, especially in situations where we feel like we didn't deserve it. As we see in this story, Saul had been tormented from before he even met David. The reason why he was introduced to David was as a result of the tormenting and what he was experiencing, the depression and all that stuff that he was dealing with, is what introduced him to David. And so you have to understand that sometimes the karma is already in play before the act even happens. Before he set his sights on trying to destroy and bring down David, he was already being tormented. Part of why he set his sights to try to destroy him is because he was being tormented and because he didn't have the same favor with God that he had. So perhaps The people that have done you wrong, that have betrayed you, that have turned their back on you, that did not reciprocate on your behalf, perhaps those people are already living in their own personal torment, in their own personal type of hell. And that is why they are behaving that way towards you. Saul had already been dealing with the consequences of his actions, his original actions being the disobedience towards God. And it put him in a situation where he was set up to be replaced. He had to go because he was not listening. He was not doing what he was supposed to be doing. So perhaps the people that you think have gotten away with what they have done to you, they're paying for what they did. And if they're not paying for it yet, they're going to be paying for it. Because remember, God has the ability to do things that you do not have the ability to do. He has the ability to make things happen that you may never see. He has the ability to show up in ways that are divine and that cannot be explained. And so while on the outside, because people tend to not project and post pain, there's a certain kind of person that actually posts their pain. Most of the people that have done you wrong are showing up online. They are smiling. They are happy. They're happy, but they're not really all the way there. They're on the back end dealing with the things that you will never know. And so, y'all, I love this story. I love this message. If this message has blessed you, make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe or follow. I'm going live both on YouTube and TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, make sure you follow me. If you are on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe. I will be going live, like I said, every day for 7 days. This is day 2. And we're going to be talking about a different story in the Bible where people dealt with the decision, do I get revenge or do I provide mercy? Am I able to help, in some cases, the person who has done me wrong? Can I give blessings to someone who has betrayed me? And so again, we were exploring the question, like, if God told you to help the one who hurt you, would you do it? Could you do it? Are you obedient enough to do it? And so, if you love this conversation, again, make sure that y'all like this video. If you guys have any questions, if you have any thoughts for future Bible studies that are live, then make sure that y'all comment or send me a message. And of course, if you want more conversations like this more regularly, make sure that you join the Waiting Room Collective, which is a sisterhood for women that are navigating life and trying to find peace in the pause, because sometimes God places you in the waiting room of life so that you can be developed. And remember, guys, you are not behind, you're being built. I'll see you guys next time tomorrow. Make sure y'all tune in, 9 p.m. Bye. Whew.